Sonia, can you hear me?
Loud and clear, Mario.
Speaker Mike, can you hear me?
Audible.
Yeah, Mr. T.
Madam Speaker,
may we now have a moment of silent prayer and meditation. May we be seated. Order, honorable members. Mam Kaula, today I'm sure you'll be happy that I'm wearing something that looks like the NA table, which can't be confused as colors of any other party. Thank you very much, honorable members. The only
Yes,
item,
Orlando Pirates, Madam Speaker.
the only item on today's order paper is questions addressed to the Deputy President. There are 4 supplementary questions on each question. Parties have given an indication of which questions their members wish to pose a supplementary question on. Adequate notice was given to parties for this purpose. The members who will pose supplementary questions will be recognized by the presiding officer. In allocating opportunities for supplementary questions, the principle of fairness, among others, have been applied. If a member who is supposed to ask a supplementary question through the virtual platform is unable to do so due to technical difficulties, the party whip on duty will be allowed to ask the question on behalf of their member. When all the supplementary questions have been answered by the Deputy President, we will proceed to the next question on the question paper. The first question has been asked by the Honorable M. Dooley. The question is about the municipalities that have been identified as pilot projects for the implementation of the structural reforms and the total number of projects that are in their implementation phase. The Honorable, the Deputy President, you can give us the answer. You can use the podium.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, let me thank Honorable Ntuli for bringing up this crucial question on the intervention to address structural constraints in our ailing local government system. The deteriorating levels of municipal performance have emerged as a significant constraint to growth and investments. As a result, several municipalities are affected by weak or unstable governance, poor revenue collection, and funding shortfalls. To address these challenges, in September 2024, the Cabinet resolved to establish an interministerial committee on municipal performance turnaround plan, chaired by the Minister of COGTA. The MPTP aims to address local government underperformance by addressing governance, service delivery, budget, revenue management, and mandatory financial recovery plan. The Interministerial Committee on MPTP will further prioritize interventions focusing on 10 municipalities deemed most distressed by the Presidency. This includes Inok Mgijima, Malutia Pofung, Mafube Kopanong, Emfuleni, Umzinyathi, Tabazimbi, Tembelihle Ditsobota, and Mamusa local municipalities. Already, 8 of the 10 identified municipalities have held meetings with the technical IMC and are currently developing their own turnaround strategies. Madam Speaker, yesterday, the 7th of May this year, President Cyril Ramaphosa officially launched Phase 2 of Operation Vula, or Vulindlela, rather. Phase 2 will expand its second wave with more structural reforms in electricity, freight logistics, telecoms, water, and skills to enhance economic growth over the next 5 years. Phase 2 of Operation Vulindlela will target 3 major reforms in the local government sector. 2 of these, the review of the 1998 White Paper on local government and the review of local government funding model, aim to fix deep-rooted problems in the sector and will apply to all municipalities. To this effect, COGTA has published a discussion document on the 10th of April this year, aiming to initiate public debate on a revised white paper on local government, expected to be published on March 2026 after publication. With regard to the review of local government funding framework, National Treasury has completed a review of local government conditional grants, and this process will be implemented in various stages. The third reform will specifically target the 8 metropolitan municipalities, that's the city of Tshwane, Johannesburg, Ekurhuleni, Cape Town, eThekwini, Buffalo City, Mangaung, and Nelson Mandela Bay. This reform is referred to as the Metro Trading Services Program, MTSP. The program will incentivize and support a turnaround in the financial, technical, and corporate performance of these trading services through institutional reform and increased investment for improved service outcomes. The implementation of the MTSP will be effective from the 1st of July this year. In addition to these reforms, the President has launched 2 district development model support mechanisms to address declining service delivery in eThekwini and Johannesburg in the short term. These mechanisms are known as the Presidential eThekwini Working Group and the Presidential Johannesburg Working Group. In conclusion, Honorable Speaker, several interventions are being undertaken through these support mechanisms, including but not limited to providing technical and financial support for turnaround plans in water and electricity distribution. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Providing technical and financial
Honorable
support.
Chavane, can you please mute? Thank you, Deputy President. Honorable Ntuli, your supplementary question.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Good afternoon to you. Good afternoon to honorable members, and of course, to Comrade Deputy President. No, Comrade Deputy President, thank you very much for a very detailed and comprehensive response to the question. As you would know that we have about 60 municipalities in the country which are in a very difficult position. And we're very happy that 10 of those have been taken care of, and there are also further interventions that the government is doing, including the second phase of the launch by the President. But does the Deputy President envisage maybe a turnaround time? Up to what point, given the fact that we are facing the local government elections next year, and certainly it will be difficult that these municipalities, even if we're without elections next year, must continue to be confronted by the major challenges that they face in the various parts of the country. So essentially, Comrade DP, one would be interested to know what else, if any, in your opinion, has to be done to expedite the turnaround in terms of the impact of the interventions that government is doing. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy President.
Thank you very much, Honorable Ntuli. The municipal support and intervention plans are basically meant to address all struggling municipalities, not only the 10. However, the Presidency decided that we must start with those 10, focus on those, but work is going to start on most of the municipalities. Ideally, we would have loved to address these challenges before the local government elections next year, but it obviously may not be possible. But we are starting, and that's why with Operation Vulindlela as well, we look at all the reforms that are necessary at local government level, dealing with issues of professionalism, and basically ensuring that with the second phase of Operation Vulindlela, a lot of attention is going to be given to local government over and above the 10 that we have identified, because you are correct to say from that report, even from the Auditor General's report, it is about 60 municipalities. So we need to reach out to all of them, and as soon as possible. We will try our best to ensure that as we get to local government election, a lot of these are attended to. However, we would make sure that as we get into the new local government municipalities after the elections, that we can quickly reach a situation where there are no dysfunctional municipalities. So in short, Honorable Ntulu, we will address all of them. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Didi D. Van Rooyen.
Honorable Speaker, Deputy President.
I'm sorry, Honorable Van Rooyen, I skipped Ms. A.M. Van Zyl by mistake. If you can, yes.
Yes, I'm not yet part of GNU.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
I was about to say, probably you've just done it. But anyway, I also had to make sure that I mention all the Ds, the D. Thank you very much, Honorable Van Zyl.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. We also have right to reserve who joins us, so you can stay that side. Given that nearly 90% of ANC-run municipalities, including those that you've mentioned earlier, Deputy Speaker, receive audit disclaimers or adverse opinions, and many fail to deliver even the most basic services, what specific consequence management mechanisms are in place to ensure that municipal officials, especially those in pilot municipalities under Operation Vulindlela, face accountability for persistent mismanagement, and what role will national government play in enforcing compliance where political will is absent? Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy President.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Van Zyl, obviously our intervention will ensure that there are consequences where things are not changing. As I indicated, that for instance, the Presidential Working Group is a very active group that goes to the municipalities, work with them, deal with the issues there, because our long-term objectives is to ensure what we can come up around with this turnaround strategy to ensure that municipalities work efficiently. And where we can see that there are councillors, whether they are mayors or MMCs who are not performing up to standard, there will be consequences, but also with the officials themselves. Because in some of the municipalities, it's not the politicians that are creating problems, it is actually the officials of the municipality. So there will definitely be consequences where we can see that people are obviously transgressing. But the important thing is for us to give support to the municipalities to be able to serve our communities. So it's going to be a very targeted intervention that is very real to ensure that there is indeed a turnaround once we get to those municipalities.
Thank you very much, Deputy President. Honorable DDD van Rooyen.
Thank you once more, Speaker. Deputy President, President Mashatile, Antlantle bentwe ya lona Operation Vulindlela. Ibula tsela difeng. Obani since its inception 5 years ago, our economy hasn't registered any growth. In fact, the last financial year it was worse. We registered 0.6% of growth. There are no jobs. Unemployment is at its highest. Now, what is emphasized in this Operation Vulindlela is more on the role of private sector at the expense of building state capacity to provide services to its people. Maybe libula ditsela for your private sector masters. How are you going to ensure that municipalities are capacitated to provide services without manipulation by private sector that might end up charging exorbitant prices to our poor people? How are you going to ensure that our people are protected from abuse of private sector? Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Honorable Deputy President.
Morenaka van Rooyen, Arebola ditsela tse senyehileng. Operation Vulindlela is to ensure that we create those pathways that will ensure that we can deliver services to our people. The issue of growth, it's a big problem globally. Growth has been subdued globally, not only in the African continent and South Africa, but everywhere else. So I take your point that when there is no economic growth, we will have a big problem in achieving the goals we are setting ourselves. That's why if you look at Operation Vulindlela, it's mainly to ensure that we accelerate structural reforms and ensure that we deal even with a lot of binding constraints that are there to growth, to ensure that our economy can grow, to be able to have enough resources to do the work that we need to do. So yes, without growth, there won't be adequate employment. I agree with you. So we will have to put a lot of efforts on growth. In fact, if you listen to the President yesterday, even the Minister of Finance, is that there is a funding that will be dedicated to infrastructure and economic development in the MTF. Basically looking to spending almost 1 trillion rand in the coming few years to ensure that we can propel growth higher. So yes, we will have to pay attention to the issue of growth in order to deal with all these challenges. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Ilunga lihloniphekile umkhaliphi.
Ngiyasibongela Somlomo weParliament. Greetings to the Deputy President. Kwimpendulo yakho, I was listening very carefully when you were responding earlier on.
Yes.
Uthi labo masipala abawu-10 identified through a program Vulindlela. But we have 66 municipalities that are dysfunctional. So therefore, umbuzo wami ukuthi uma ngabe uthi uthatha 10 out of 66, uzoyiqeda nini ke yonke le process? Because in an actual fact, ba dysfunctional bonke omasipala, let alone there's a report that says it's only 66 dysfunctional. Secondly, kwimpendulo yakho again, ubala ukuthi kune intervention ebizwa nge-presidential intervention kumasipala waseThekwini, which is not part of the 10, which is not part of the 66. So therefore, Deputy President, uyabona ukuthi le intervention ngazi ukuthi ayindawo igeda ndawona. We have 66, now identify 10, even nomasipala waseThekwini is part of the intervention. Kubonakala as if this Vulindlela is not going to help us.
Sikhathi sakho sesiphelile.
Imalini ke njengoba uthe uzoshintsha ne-model, how much in South African rands has been committed by national government?
Sesiganikeza ithuba.
Awahle Speaker,
Cha,
sikhuluma into
isikhathi
serious la. This is
siphelile.
very serious.
I'm very much aware
Utholileke
it's
kodwa
very
umbuzo-ke,
serious.
awusitshelele
Deputy
rands and
President,
cents,
can you
Deputy
please answer the
President.
question?
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Mkalipe, I did say when I was answering Honorable Ntuli that yes, the President or the Presidency has identified 10 that we had to start with, but work is going to continue on the rest. So it's not that Sizoma for another 2 years before we attend to the rest. But we thought we should start somewhere. Ikona le 10 esibhekile uthi hayi ngempela masiqale khona. But we will then go to the rest because you are right. If we just focus on the 10 and there's no work on any of the municipalities, then it can take us 10 years to deal with this problem. So the issue of professionalism in local government, accountability, issues of government, all those issues identified by the Auditor General will be attended, particularly by the Interministerial Committee chaired by the Minister of Culture. They are going to go beyond the 10 that the Presidency identified. Those are obviously our first priorities, but we will go to the rest. Now, yes, the metros were not part of those 10, but the President felt there's a need to focus on the metros as well. That's why we came up with this plan that helps us to immediately focus on all the metros in the country, because we know that the metros are very critical. Most of our major economic development, you find them in the metros. The bulk of our population, you find it in the metros, so we are attending to them. But sizoenza sure ukuthi so attend wonke umasipala, not only the 10. Siyabonga.
Sibonge Sekela Mongameli, sesiya embuzweni wesibili olandelayo obuzwe ilungu elihloniphekile umnumzana u-RE Roo. Umbuzo lo umayelana nokuthi ngabe sesihambe ibanga elingakanani ikakhulukazi kule nguyazana ebhekelene nokuqoqwa kumbe nokuthi sibhekane nesimo sengculazi ezweni. Ikakhulukazi njoba kukhona nje imali ethathiwe yilaba ababesilekelela ikakhulukazi izwe laseMelika ukuthi ke ngabe umnyango wezezimali lapha ekhaya nabanye mhlambe abazimisele ukuthi basixhase ngabe sihambe safikaphi. Sekela Mongameli.
Mangibonge kakhulu Somlomo ngalombuzo obaluleke kakhulu kangaka. Honorable Speaker, let me start by assuring the House that the government is currently taking measures to prevent the negative effects that could result from the withdrawal of the President's emergency plan for AIDS relief, mostly known to us as PEFA. A report by UNAIDS and other partners indicate that a funding withdrawal on PEFA in South Africa without adequate replacement could lead to a significant increase in HIV-related death and new infections over the next 10 years. The abrupt withdrawal of the funding has resulted already in job losses and a negative impact on the national response to HIV, TB, and STIs. To this effect, the Minister of Science and Technology, Dr. Blade Nzimande, has announced an establishment of a working group on science, technology, and innovation funding to advise him on the implication and impact of this recent withdrawal of funding, particularly on key research and development programs in South Africa. Accordingly, the working group will examine risk mitigating considerations related to external funding, particularly of research and development program in critical areas of the national system and innovation. As I indicated during the human rights commemoration, government through the national and provincial departments of health has a contingency plan to address the gaps resulting from this funding withdrawal to sustain the delivery of health services. The Minister of Health is engaging with the Minister of Finance to discuss the possibility of funding these gaps from our own fiscus. The Department of Health and the National Treasury, working with the provincial departments, are assessing the level of need in relation to the program or programs in each of the 27 priority districts that were supported by PEFA. This is with a view of rationalizing and consolidating the implementing partners and integrating some of the programs into the primary health care and district health systems. Based on the analysis of the extent of the impact of the reduced financial support, a team led by the Director General of Health is already in talks with National Treasury to discuss funding options. In addition, the South African National AIDS Council has approached the National Lotteries Commission and the SANEC Private Sector Forum to garner further funding support. The National Lotteries Commission has submitted a funding application for what they call Close the Gap HIV treatment campaign and End TB campaign, which is being considered by its discretionary emergency funding. Madam Speaker, we are hopeful that all these resource mobilization efforts will yield positive results, as we cannot afford to have service delivery gaps in relation to health programs, particularly those focusing on HIV and TB. We will continue with our efforts to find sufficient resources to sustain these health programs, including engaging other countries, not only to assist in funding, but also looking at affordable drugs from those countries. Those are the interventions we are looking at, and I thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Siyabonga Sekela Mongameli, ilunga elihloniphekile uDupi Leroux.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Honourable Deputy President, I hope that you understand that there is grave concern by people living with HIV and with civil society organizations that more than 3 months after the funding from PEPFAR through USAID was abruptly stopped, it appears as if there's been no urgency shown by the South African National AIDS Council, which you chair, neither by the National Department of Health, to find funding and to mitigate the damage of these funding cuts. Could the Deputy Minister please indicate why emergency funding under Section 16 was only applied for from Treasury at the end of April, and when he expects this funding to be dispersed to try to reach the most vulnerable patients? Thank you.
Sekela Mongameli.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Leroux, the funding that we receive from PEFA constitute only 17% of the funding we receive for our HIV programs. And if you take the global fund as well, you could add another 7%. So it's basically about 8 billion rands, if you put it in South African rands. Now, when the funding was cut, we immediately looked at that with the Minister of Health, and we realized that all our programs for HIV, AIDS, and TB, people who are receiving ARVs and so on, that program is fully funded for this current financial year. In fact, you must have heard the minister saying to those affected, please go to our clinics and various places where you receive treatment and drugs, you will be assisted. So yes, we didn't respond immediately, but we had to weigh the situation, what are the implications and so on. But as I said in my main reply, we are moving to ensure that we try to be self-sufficient as a country on these matters. The people who were affected mainly were in the many districts, what we call community health centers and clinics. Yes, it's true, because some of this funding from PEFA were used to pay for salaries and so on and so on. And that's where we need to engage with the Minister of Finance. But as far as drugs and medicine and treatment is concerned, those people are covered. So we will engage with the minister to see if we can really be assisted to continue to employ as many people as possible that were paid through the PEFA fund. So that's why we are looking at all these engagements, and I'm confident that we will find a solution. Thank you very much.
Siyabonga Sekela Mongameli, ilunga elihloniphekile R Tagodin.
Assalamu alaikum, good afternoon. Deputy President, considering the government delayed response in anticipating withdrawal of PEP4 funding, how does the Presidency justify the risk now posed to thousands of vulnerable South Africans, particularly women and children who depend on those programs? And what accountability measures will be put in place for those apparent failure in foresight and planning? Thank you.
Deputy President.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Takodin, yes, we are concerned about these cuts, and as I said earlier, that we are now looking at resource mobilization from other quarters, our own fiscus, but just to assure you that we're not looking at our own fiscus for the first time, as I said. In fact, funding from our own fiscus on these programs already constitute close to 75% of the budget we spend on HIV and AIDS. It is true, though, that when it comes to the employment of people in the districts and clinics, a lot of the funding that was used to pay for their salaries came from PEFA. And that's where the minister is trying hard now to ensure that we can deal with that. But when it comes to drugs and medicine, the South African government actually carries the bulk of that commitment. And that's why I can say to you here, without fear of contradiction, that people will continue to receive their antiviral drugs and treatment without a problem. But we need to close the gap of employing people. And that's the money we're trying to get from other sources, including additional funding from National Treasury. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Lilunga lihloniphekile uNLS Nkwangwa.
Kwangwa, Speaker, Kwangwa. Deputy President. Kwangwa, yes, thank you so much. Deputy President, Section 10.1.6 of the Forum on China-Africa Cooperation, the Beijing Action Plan for 2025 to 2027. China makes a commitment that they will share clinical and disease prevention and control skills and technologies with African countries. But more importantly, they also cite the fact that they would support key projects to support African countries fight against HIV/AIDS and make resources available in this regard. Now, given the withdrawal of funding by the US, have we as a country considered looking for resources or mobilizing resources from elsewhere in the world, looking at the East, and also looking at other funding that might possibly be available from the EU to try and plug the shortfall that we're experiencing currently? Nkosi Mongameli.
Sekela Mongameli.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Thank you, Honorable Kwankwa. Indeed, that's what we're doing. One of the things I should indicate, though, is that drugs that are manufactured in different countries are different. So it's important that before we can say we're going to get drugs from this or that country, we must ensure that we get the right drugs. But definitely we will engage China. I think the minister has already started. Some of our ministers have been there recently. So we will talk to other countries in Europe, in the East, and see where we can get assistance on particularly affordable drugs. We may not get funding per se from other countries, but if we can buy drugs that are cheaper, we can do so. But also with the research that Minister Dr. Blaine Zimand is dealing with, is to look at whether we can produce some of the drugs ourselves. That's why it's important we must put a lot of efforts on the research so that we don't continue to rely on other countries all the time. Thank you very much, Honorable Kwankwa. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Siyabonga Sekela Mongameli, ilunga elihloniphekile umfundisi KRJ Mishwe.
Thank you, Speaker. The ACDP is grateful for all foreign aid that this country has been receiving over the years from different countries, particularly funding for life-saving, providing treatment and care for those living with HIV/AIDS. While the ACDP regrets the US government's decision to withdraw PEPFAR funding, we nevertheless wish to encourage South Africans to view that decision as a wake-up call on African governments, including South Africa, to scale down on their dependence on foreign aid and start focusing on training, developing, and skilling our people to become more self-reliant. What I want to know, Honorable Deputy President, is whether government has programs that are aimed at training and developing our people to become more self-reliant. If yes, where are such programs running? And if not, why not? Thank you, Speaker.
Honorable Deputy President.
Masbonge, Honorable Speaker. Thank you, Honorable Mishwe, for the suggestions. We actually doing exactly that. We were saying that ourselves, is that perhaps the decision by the US administration to cut funding must be something that really propels us to now take urgent efforts to become self-reliant, not only as South Africa, but the continent as a whole. Let's start doing things for ourselves. So I agree with you, Honorable Bishop. What we are doing in terms of training, as you know, that South Africa is blessed with many universities and technicons that are doing training, but we then have set up what we call the Human Resource Development Council, which the President has appointed me to chair, What we do there, we look at requisite skills for the country, where we bring in the private sector, we bring in labor, civil society, and we look at the kind of skills we need in the country. And then we collaborate with universities and technical colleges to ensure they provide those skills as well. And there we also work with the ministers of basic education, higher education, Minister of Science and Technology is part of that. So the Human Resource Development Council is a mechanism to ensure that not only do we identify the skills needed in the country, but ensure that those skills are being produced. And that's why we're working with all these institutions of learning. They are part of these programs. We do visit them and ensure that we are training young people in particular in all these fields, including to be able to do this work without relying from people from other countries. Thank you very much, Honorable Mishwe. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Siyabonga Sekela Mongameli. Umbuzo wesithathu ubhekiswe kuwe Sekela Mongameli uvela kumholi weqembu eliphikisayo okuyilona elokuqala la kulamaqembu aphikisayo. Umbuzo ke uthi ngabe Sekela Mongameli esikhundleni sakho sokuba usihlalo wekomiti lezobulungiswa nokuvikeleka nokuphepha ikakhulukazi kuyiKhabhinethi, ngabe ukhulumile yini nongqongqoshe wezamaphoyisa mayelana nokuhamba kancane kophenyo ikakhulukazi kulamacansi anyantisa igazi ikakhulu amacala? Cha, anikangizwa. Amacala anyantisa igazi ezocansi ikakhulukazi kubantwana abangakwazi ukuzivikela abikwayo kwabezomthetho amaphoyisa, ukuthi ngabe ke yikuphi esikubonayo okukhombisa ukuthi ngabe kuyashesha kulolu phenyo nocwaningo ikakhulukazi kulabo ababaliwe kumbe umuntu oqhakambisiwe, ngabe ke kuzothatha isikhathi esingakanani ukuthi lolu phenyo lusheshe? Sekela Mongameli.
Mangibonge Somlomo. Ngibonge nalombuzo obaluleke kakhulu obuya kumholi we-MK Party. Mangikale ngokuthi, Honorable Speaker, that we strongly condemn all forms of violence against women, children, people with disabilities, and vulnerable members of our society. Indeed, the Minister of Police did report these matters to us so that we consider them. And we are quite concerned about the prevalence of sexual abuse amongst young children in our country. This remains a cause for concern, particularly due to its traumatic and long-term impact on victims and their families. The painful case of allegations of sexual abuse of the 7-year-old child in the area of Matatiele in the Eastern Cape province and other separate cases of sexual assault of minors are currently being investigated by the South African Police Services. According to the reports that we have received from SAPS, investigations are still underway on this case in particular to collect additional evidence that may lead to the arrest of the perpetrators of this young minor in Matatiele. We are, however, concerned, as Honorable Klope has said, about the delays in finalizing the investigation, as this perpetuates emotional trauma to victims and their family members. On the 31st of March, the National Commissioner of Police, having had discussion with the minister, appointed what they call the National Intervention Team to deal with this case. This is led by the head of the Family Violence, Child Protection, and Sexual Offenses Unit. They are going to quickly revisit this Mashatile case. According to SAPS, approximately 30 statements have already been taken to date, mainly from the staff of the school in question, medical personnel who examined the victim, the children who were with the victim, but also family members. Madam Speaker, we all have the responsibility to protect our children. We must make sure that we make every effort that our homes and schools are safe havens for our children. Together as government, civil society formation, and other stakeholders, including faith-based organizations, and also traditional leaders, we need to foster multi-sectoral approaches to put an end to gender-based violence and the scourge of sexual abuse, particularly directed at women and young children. We also urge the Department of Social Development and its agencies to continue to provide necessary support to the affected families. Similarly, our law enforcement agencies have an obligation to speedily finalize investigations that will lead to the successful prosecution of perpetrators. So, Honorable Klope, we have ensured that a doctor, I'm told I must say doctor.
Order, honorable members. Deputy President, continue.
Ungasixabanisi ngoba siyezwana nodokotela. I was saying that this message has been conveyed to the South African Police Services and those who are investigating, that we have to ensure that there are no delays in investigating this matter. SAPS in particular needs to capacitate and allocate more resources to forensic science laboratories to ensure speedy analysis of forensic exhibits collected from the victims of sexual abuse, because this is where we often experience delays. Upon the completion of this investigation, the Minister of Police and the National Commissioner will communicate the findings to the public. We must ensure that justice is served. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Thank you, Honorable Dr. Klope.
Siyabonga sicela Mongameli. Umbuzo wesichibiyelo uzovela kulunga elihloniphekile udokotela uHlope. Ngicishe ngathi udokotela uJudge.
Udokotela uJudge.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I beg leave to remain seated. Thank you very much, Deputy President, for your detailed response. Here is a follow-up question. You will recall that the Minister of Police indicated that DNA samples of the headmaster of the school where Cwecwe was violated in the Eastern Cape had in fact been taken. At the time when he made this announcement, we all know that that had not taken place. Therefore, this was a blatant lie. In the light thereof, When is the Minister of Police going to be fired? If not, why not? Furthermore, what disciplinary steps will be taken against the police officer who failed to timeously secure a DNA sample from the headmaster by invoking Section 36, brackets E of the Criminal Procedure Act 51 of 1977 as amended? Thank you.
Sekela Mongameli.
Mangbonge Somlom, thank you very much, Dr. Thope, your follow-up. I did say earlier, Togotela, that on the 31st of March, the police commissioner appointed a national intervention team led by the head of the Family Violence, Child Protection and Sexual Offences Unit. Now, this is to ensure that we immediately revisit the case. I'm sure some of the issues you are raising, Sizos Tola, Kule investigation. And this report will obviously go to the president, who then will see who did not do their work and what happened. So I can't confirm whether there's somebody who actually lied. Let's allow this investigation to go and take place, and then we will decide. I think what is important for me is that really we must ensure that the victims and their families really find closure, they know the truth, and they can see that we are doing something. But I'm happy that you've raised this question so that we must really focus on it. We're not going to run away and say, no, we've done our work, that's it. Let's allow this unit now to do its work. Masbongeke Togotel. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Isichibiyelo sombuzo wesibili sivela kulunga ehloniphekile uWT Plaatjes.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Deputy President, we welcome your point on the subsuit, that subsuit capacitate its forensic services, ensures speedy resolutions to crime in general and sexual offenses in particular. But as you are raising the issue, Deputy President, that I would like to ask you that you assure, in addition of solving the case, that there is a focus on the victim itself in terms of providing necessary support and assessment and rehabilitation, especially that the victim is a minor. So that will be a request, President, that you follow it up and ensure that that happened. I thank you, Speaker.
Thank you. Sekela Mongameli.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Plaatjes. One of the things that we always want the SAPS to do is to ensure victim support. So in addition to the work that they do to fight crime and prevent crime and do investigations, victim support remains very important, particularly when you deal with minors. It becomes even more important. In some of the police stations, as I speak, we have gender-based violence desks. They also have what they call special rooms where victims of gender-based violence can report their cases and be dealt with in a friendly manner. They call them victim-friendly rooms. So this is a very important part of what the SAPS does in addition to others, because they are able to ensure that there's an environment that offers emotional support and other forms of support to victims. So I agree with you, Honorable Plaatjes, that victim support is critical in these cases, and it is currently being done. Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Thank you, Honorable Plakis.
Siyabonga Sekela Mongameli. Yebo, lunga ehloniphekile Hlophe.
Ayikho lento esho Deputy President. Ugcine nini ukuvashela ama-police stations?
Cha,
There's no such things.
Honorable Member, I note your concern is not a point of order right now. I'm sure you can raise it on another time as part of the concerns that you would like to place in front of the Deputy President on this matter. Nyalo sichibiyelo sesithathu kulo mbuto lesikhuluma ngawo sitakuvela kulunga lehloniphekile uTKS Lihlaba. Wo akakho kukhona mnumzane trolley blota umbutela lo mbuto. Lunga lehloniphekile.
Thank you, Speaker. I request also to remain seated. Out of no disrespect, I'm attached to an earpiece. Honourable Deputy President, as Chair of the Justice, Crime Prevention and Security Committee, you would have noted that this question and question 6 deal primarily with the same issues. And you'll be repeating your answers, but as you repeat yourself, you should be reinforcing our objection to such cases. Are you not concerned about how slowly the wheels of justice grind in GBVF and violent sexual assault cases? The concern is compounded by the fact that they do not grind exceedingly finely enough through these delays for those victims. And the cases that do enjoy public scrutiny also appear to enjoy closer criminal justice scrutiny, yet even these often end up confounding more than providing appropriate judicial outcomes for the victims, their families, and the public at large. These cases often result in speculation, as in this case, and trial by media and social media, which only further muddies the already filthy water.
Honourable Member,
What are you
your
going
time
to
is
do
up.
to remedy this despicable malaise?
Thank you, Deputy President.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, and thank you, Honorable Trollip. Indeed, this is a matter that preoccupies us in the JCPS. As the chair of JCPS, we have discussed the issue of investigations that get delayed, not only in these cases, but of course, now we are focusing on the gender-based violence cases. I did say earlier that there are instances where the SAPS itself has talked about problems of capacity. I did refer to the issue of the laboratories. So we are doing everything to ensure that we can speed up these cases. So it's not like we are disinterested. In fact, it occupies our work to ensure that let's ensure speedy investigation, speedy resolution of cases so that justice must seem to be done. Because the more we delay, as you say, people lose hope and they think that the justice system is not serving them. So we are attending to that, Honorable Speaker. Thank you very much, Honorable Trollip, for the question.
Is that a point of order, Honorable Member?
I'll wait, Speaker.
The Deputy President
No,
has finished.
Ngisho ukuthi Speaker, lapha kumyalo yabune nakune. Ngoba ngiyabona sekunomuntu ozako ofuna uzokuchithisa. Ngamanye amagama ngithi ukuthi njengoba wazi ukuthi bekunomwembeso lapha eKZN in honor for abantu balapha eMandeni. Ngiba ukuthi ngichere namhlanje Speaker. Isibawo sami ngileso kuphela Speaker.
Wow.
Bekunomembeso kwaZulu Natal uluzile Speaker. Ngiyakuthokoza.
Thank you, honorable members. This is not a point of order. Actually, it's an expression that should have been given to the speaker before the meeting started. Unfortunately, it's not a point of order. Honorable members, can we not have points that actually delay us? Honorable Kawula, is the point of order?
Ngiyabonga Chair. Ngivumelana no Honorable Uhlophe. Uyabona lento
Honorable Member. Honorable Mamkhawula.
mana
No. Honorable Member.
President, Deputy President.
Honorable Member.
Akazi uyazi into Westville kunabantu ababoshelwa amacala
Honorable
bengawenzanga
Member.
na.
Honorable Member.
Abafuzi ukuya before ezophendula lana.
Honorable Member Khawula. I would really, Honorable Khawula. Honorable Khawula, I would really ask you to come to my office tomorrow. Yes. Please do come to my office tomorrow, because you know very well where you're sitting that what you are doing is out of order. It's not a point of order, and I think we shouldn't take privileges that are not befitting. No, there's no way in which you can address the speaker in that way. Thank you very much, Honorable Ghana.
Nakenza Mtramashtul. Shandla Shah, President. So, nkinga leyi nga na yo la tikweni hileswaku eswigevenga leswi endlaka vugevenga lebyi swi na ntshembo wa ku ri no voko ra nawu ri nge va fikeleli, na loko ri va fikelerile evoko ra nawu kumbe hi mhaka ya xiphorisa va tiva ku ri no loko va ya ekhoto vachuchisi a va na capacity ya ku ri no va kota ku endla ku ri case leyi yi va yisa ejele. So loko hi langutisa case leyi hi vulavulaka hi yona yi teka nkarhi wo leha ku ri yi kota ku va yi solviwa. So hi endla njhani ku tiyisisa evoko ra nawu eka xiphorisa ni le ka vuchuchisi leswaku swigevenga swi ta kota ku khomiwa, swi ta kota ku yisiwa khoto, swi ta kota ku yisiwa ejele. Eka nkarhi wa sweswi maAfrika-Dzonga a va le ku tshembeni ku ri no voko ra nawu ri le ku tirheni. Ni khensi.
The Honourable Deputy President.
Thank you very much, Honorable Deputy Speaker. Tatan Ghana, mitisi la korboko ra nawu fane ri tirha swigevenga swi ya jele. It's very important, honorable members, that the criminal justice system should be seen to be working as a whole. We mustn't have instances where police arrest criminals, but when they are supposed to be prosecuted, it doesn't happen. Or in cases where they are prosecuted, they are released tomorrow. So it's important that that whole criminal justice system must work effectively as the whole system. That's what we're working on now, to ensure that one of the arms should not be weaker than the others. So Bokora now, Faneritera, and the criminal justice system in Kwayo, it as a system lenga helel, honorable ka. Iti sakure iba system lenga helela, itira kureta kona kur swigevenga les swisuka la xikarhi hina swi ya la fane swi ya tshama ko. Na khensa ku ri mi vutisa hi ndlela leyi mi nga vutisa hi yona. We're going to make sure, Honorable Deputy Speaker, that the criminal justice system is effective as a whole. And there should not be loopholes, because we do find these complaints all the time, that the police will say, oh, no, we do arrest criminals, but you know, the courts are releasing them, or the courts sentence them, and then correctional services, before you know it, they are out. So we need to make sure it's effective as a whole system. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honourable Deputy President. Question 4 has been asked by the Honourable Tejo. The question is about the implementation strategy and specific milestones for the dissemination of Better Men for Tomorrow campaign, which is aimed at finding and linking 1.1 million men to HIV treatment by 31 December 2025. The Honourable Deputy President.
Thank you very much, Honorable Deputy Speaker. Honorable Keko, indeed, men play a critical role in ending HIV, and for this reason, on World AIDS Day, which was held on the 1st of December last year, we officially launched what we call Better Men for Tomorrow, or rather Better Men for Tomorrow campaign. And this we did in collaboration with SANAC Men's Forum sector and various other men's formations. The campaign, Honorable Deputy Speaker, received backing and support during a joint session of the 4th National Men's Parliament held here in Cape Town on the 7th of December last year. The Better Men for Tomorrow campaign will strategically establish a coherent network of change agents committed to improving men's health across South Africa, with a target of reaching 1 million people through a comprehensive advocacy, communication, and social mobilization initiatives. The initiatives further seeks to do the following: encourage regular visits to health facilities for physical, mental, and psychological checkup every 6 months. Second, address high-risk behaviors, including excessive alcohol consumption, smoking, substance abuse, poor dietary habits, lack of physical activity, and high-risk sexual behavior. Encourage adherence to treatment and promote a stigma-free environment for those seeking healthcare assistance. The Better Men for Tomorrow campaign supports the broader HIV treatment campaign, which the Minister of Health launched on the 25th of February this year. This campaign, known as Close the Gap, aims to reach 1.1 million people living with HIV and place them on antiretroviral treatment. In this regard, Better Men for Tomorrow campaign will target 650,000 men and adolescent boys as a contribution to the 1.1 million people to be initiated or re-engaged on antiretroviral treatment by the 31st of December this year. The men's sector will leverage its strength in awareness raising and advocacy, collaborating with experienced practitioners in clinical healthcare and related services to enhance capacity and efficacy in these efforts. Madam Deputy Speaker, in terms of implementation, the Better Men for Tomorrow campaign is guided by milestones and key timelines on a quarterly basis. During the first quarter of 2025, the focus is on promoting awareness, particularly around the campaign itself, but also generating demand for health services amongst boys and men, leveraging various events, including customary male initiation school and sporting events. In the second quarter, the campaign will seek to enhance partnerships and collaboration with traditional health practitioners and faith-based communities for the effective referral of adolescent boys and men to health services. District and provincial men's parliaments will also be used as platforms for this purpose. In the following quarters, the men's movement will document success stories across the country in supporting the sustainability of the campaign activities. These activities of the Betterment for Tomorrow campaign will move beyond dialogue to action, encouraging disengaged men to return to health facilities, adhere to treatment, and support a long-term culture of health-seeking behavior among men and boys. In conclusion, we urge all of you, honorable members, to support this and related campaigns to achieve better health outcomes for all our people as we strive to achieve the UN AIDS targets of 95, 95, 95. I thank you, Honorable Speaker, and thank you to Honorable Teko.
The first supplementary question will be asked by the Honorable Teko.
Enkosi Sekela Somlomo, obekekileyo. Ndiyabulisa kumalungu endlu owisomthetho. Sekela Mongameli welizwe loMzantsi Afrika, ndiyabulela ngempendulo ecacileyo ekhankanya iphulo elithi indoda engcono yengomso elijolise ekulweni ulosuleleko nokuphelisa ingculazi, ukujongana nempilo yamadoda, ukuphucula intlalo yamadoda, ukulwa imiqobo ethintela amadoda kukhathalelo lwempilo, kubalulwa ukufundiswa kwamadoda namakhwenkwe ngobungozi bokusebenzisa kakhulu utywala nokwabelana ngesondo ngaphandle kwezikhuseli. Impendulo yakho ithetha ngephulo lamadoda akhuthaza amanye amadoda ukuze iqondo lolwasuleleko lehle, amadoda athi gqolo ukuya kumaziko empilo ukuyokuzihlola. Sekela Mongameli, ngaphaya kokudibanisa, ukufundisa nokukhuthaza amadoda eli lizwe ngobungozi bokungakhathaleli unyango lwengculazi, zeziphi iindlela nobuchwepheshe bala maxesha namaqonga anika umdla anokusetyenziswa khona ukuze kube lula ukulandelela abo bathi baphume kwinkqubo yonyango lwale ntsholongwane kagawulayo? Iinkqubo zala maxesha zingenza ukuba ilizwe loMzantsi Afrika lufikelele kwimigomo yehlabathi ngokwezempilo elingu-95, 95, 95. Enkosi Sekela Mongameli, Enkosi Sekela Somlomo.
Thank you, the Honourable Deputy President.
Enkosi Sekela Somlomo. Enkosi Honorable Teko. Honorable Teko, in fact, you covered a lot of these important issues. You know, one of the big challenges when it comes to us achieving these targets of 95, 95, 95, it's really the middle 95. And this is not only men, but in particular, let's focus on men, that people don't take treatment. And people don't take treatment because there's a stigma. La madoda awafuna ukuya eklinikhi. Ngoba uma uya lapha uyothatha ama-ARVs bayakubona abantu ukuthi hayi kusho ukuthi unengculazi. So bayasaba ke ukuya because of the stigma. So one of the things we are saying is that we need to ensure that it becomes acceptable that if people are affected with the HIV, AIDS, that it should be normal for people to be able to say, yes, I have this disease and I want to go and take treatment. In fact, that's what the Minister of Health has been battling with the second 95, because people get diagnosed, they don't go and get treatment. So we don't make good efforts to ensure that we can reduce their viral load because they don't take treatment. So we're going to, that's why the Better Men for Tomorrow are taking this as a campaign. So it's not just, there was a nice dialogue by Better Men for Tomorrow. It's a campaign that let's go out. In the 1.1 million people who needs to be found, most of them are men. That's why the target for men is 650,000. Most of the people who needs to be found are men. And therefore, let's support the campaign by Better Men for Tomorrow to ensure that we go out there, be able to, push the message that please come forward, take your treatment, because together we can beat HIV/AIDS, but people need to come out. So Honorable Deputy Speaker, that's what we're going to do. I'm working already closely with Better Men for Tomorrow as chair of SANAC, and we are focusing on going out there to get this 1.1 million, but particularly the men who are not coming out. Mandibulele, Honorable Qhegu.
The second supplementary question will be asked by the Honorable Hadebe.
Thank you so much, Honorable Deputy Speaker. Honorable Deputy President, in light of the ambitious target to link 1.1 million men to HIV treatment by December 2025, what measures are in place to ensure that once men are linked to care, they remain in continuous treatment, particularly in underserved areas where healthcare access and follow-up remain a challenge? Thank you.
The Honorable Deputy President.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy Speaker. Thank you, Honorable Hadebe. You're quite right, because particularly in rural areas, the clinics are sometimes far. There was a debate we had last year with the minister, with people who are affected, as to whether people can be given the treatment that lasts for longer. And other people are saying, no, if you do that, then we lose track of people. But we are looking into that, because where clinics are far, sometimes people just, don't come because it's too far to get their treatment. So the minister is saying we can, in some instances, be able to ensure that, you don't have to come to the clinic every month, but maybe every 3 months, whatever. But we need to keep track to the people who are taking treatment, particularly in those areas. But we want to make it easy as well for people to be able to access antiretrovirals and treatment without having to travel long distances where possible. So SANAC is looking into all this as well. It's something that we are busy with, because we also want, in trying to reach out the 1.1 million people, there are people who we want to re-engage. So you are quite right, Honorable. They were taking treatment, but they've suddenly disappeared. So we need to get them as well and bring them back to treatment through these efforts that we are making, working with Better Men for Tomorrow campaign. We think we should be able to reach these millions of people, 1.1 million of people in the country. It's a big target. trying to reach by end of this December this year. We're going to try everything to try and reach out to all these people. Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker.
The third supplementary question will be asked by the Honourable Sali.
Thank you, Honourable Deputy Speaker. Honourable Deputy President, in December 2024 at the Men's Parliament, hosted by yourself, you listened attentively to the valuable input presented by participants. How do you envisage what role a boy child can play in ending HIV and supporting the Better Men for Tomorrow campaign? Thank you.
The Honourable Deputy President.
Thank you very much, Honourable Deputy Speaker. Thank you, Honourable Sali. The boy child, I think one of the things we should do is really to ensure that in our schools we have or we take efforts to ensure that they get conscientized and get to understand HIV/AIDS, how to prevent it, if you have it, what you need to do, but also in our homes. We as parents, we need to teach our children to avoid the dangers of this, and where it has happened, we need to be able to ensure that they get treatment. But I think the biggest thing, Honorable Sali, will be prevention. And I think prevention in most cases is better where there is education about this problem. Let them understand from the young age, as boys, how to prevent getting HIV and AIDS. And I think schools will help us a lot. But also, families must take it upon themselves as well to teach their young boys better behavior. The Better Men for Tomorrow campaign, as I said earlier, will target young boys as well. Thank you very much, Honorable Sang. Thank you, Deputy Speaker.
The last supplementary question will be asked by the Honourable Mashatile.
Kelebo Motlatsi wa Sebui. Kgotso Motlatsi wa President. DP, what specific system and approach has the Department of Health implemented to ensure that 1.1 million men in South Africa, particularly those who have previously defaulted or disregarded from HIV care, are welcomed back into the healthcare facilities without judgment, delay, or structural barriers, such as through the male-friendly clinics, differentiated service delivery model, the Welcome Back campaigns, mental health integration, community outreach, and civil society partnership? Kanimambo.
The Honourable Deputy President.
Thank you, Honourable Deputy Speaker. Kgotso, Honourable Mahlatsi. Ke nka gore puo ya hao e thabela ntho e re etsa to reach out, particularly to men. I did say earlier that there are also women in this target that we are pursuing for December, but the bulk is men. And Kintrelo retlo sebetsana le yona gore re fitlhelle batho ba kaofela. Because our target is that we should be able to defeat HIV and AIDS. We have seen successes in other countries. And as we identify people who are affected, we need to make sure they get onto treatment immediately. And it's consistent. Baskanyamalla. Because botata ke bona bo ba bang ba tla ba tle ba nyamalle ska tlhele ba bona. Fela ha a re go hutlwile hantle gore no wa o thabela mosebetsi ona. Ke a leboga. Thank you, Honourable Deputy Speaker.
We now move on to question number 5, which has been asked by the Honourable Malema. The question is about whether the Deputy President has found the National Prosecuting Authority's decision to review its initial decision not to pursue fraud and perjury charges against him in relation to a political conference in the Northwest in 2022 to be part of a political conspiracy to undermine his political career, and whether, as the chairperson of the Justice, Crime Prevention and Security Cabinet Committee, the Deputy President has any concerns regarding the misuse of state institutions for political purposes. The Honourable Deputy President.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy Speaker. I would like to thank Honorable Malema in his absence on this important question. Honorable Deputy Speaker, today marks 29th anniversary since the adoption of the country's constitution. I'm sure honorable members will recall that our constitution was signed on this day, 8th of May, 29 years ago. So this marked a crucial step in our country's transition from apartheid to democracy towards building a non-racial, non-sexist, and democratic and united South Africa. Honorable Deputy Speaker, I would like to first affirm the independence and impartiality of our law enforcement agencies and the judicial system. As activists and elected public representatives, we have no authority to interfere with their operations or use our justice system to pursue our personal political interests. We will continue to condemn anyone that continues to use state institutions for their political interests or ambitions without fear or favor. We will also continue to invest in building strong institutions of the state so that they protect the most vulnerable in our society. The matter that Honorable Malema is raising that relates to the issue that is adequately covered in the question is a matter that has already gone through 3 courts, or rather, let me say 3 courts of law. And the latest was the Court of Appeal in the Free State. And of course, the Supreme Court of Appeal dismissed that case. Those, Honorable Deputy Speaker, who still feel that they are not satisfied with the outcome of the Supreme Court of Appeal are allowed to take the matter to the Constitutional Court for further review. This is the beauty of our democracy. So you can go right up to the end. Madam Deputy Speaker, beside being the chairperson of the Justice, Crime Prevention and Security Cabinet Committee, I hold great concerns about any attempt at misuse of state institutions for political purposes. Political interference in the justice system not only undermines our democracy, it erodes public trust, fosters corruption, and may lead to instability. In this regard, the misuse of state institutions for political interests is currently being addressed through the implementation of some of the recommendations of the State Capture Commission, known by many as the Zondo Commission, some of which have already been adopted by this Parliament through the passing of relevant legislation. So In conclusion, Honorable Deputy Speaker, I'm satisfied that these matters, no matter the motives of people, state institution must act at all times without fear or favor in dealing with anyone in the Republic. Not only myself, but all citizens must feel in this country that they are protected by the law and the Constitution. I thank you, Honorable Deputy Speaker. Thank you for the question, Honorable Malema.
The first supplementary question will be asked by the Honorable Malema.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker, and my apologies to the Deputy President. I was meant to be in London, but imperialism refused me entry. So hence, I'm not physically there, but I joined online because I understood we're dealing with important issues. Should we be worried that as you go closer to your conference or to the conference of your party, we'll see more abuse of state resources to settle political scores? Because there's been a lot of attempt on your name, even on matters that people can't link directly to you. And anybody who's watching from a distance and who has been a player or an observer in politics will know that once you see this kind of conduct, someone is being pursued to settle political differences or to settle contestation even before it arises. And what will that do to our own democracy? Because once state institutions are used to settle political scores or personal scores, it will undermine the integrity and the standing of our Constitution. Are you not worried that there are signs of abuse of state power as you go closer to our party conference? Thank you.
The Honorable Deputy President.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy Speaker, and thank you to Honorable Malema. As the Deputy President of the Republic, I'll always be concerned if there are signs that there are politicians or public representatives that try to use state institutions for their personal interests, no matter what party. Of course, Honorable Malema wants to know because the ANC is going to a conference in 2027. Are we going to see more problems? The leadership of the ANC, as far as I know, would all be concerned if there was to be such an eventuality. And we will make sure that indeed we must respect the laws. You know, South Africans have rights, irrespective of what political parties they belong to. I know that in this country, people have the right to participate freely in elections of whatever sorts, in whatever party, without fear that someone will use state institutions against them. So I want to say, Honorable Malema, that we will guard against that. We will guard against that, that it doesn't happen. So my advice to those who are going to conferences from any party, go and contest at the conference. Don't want somebody else to do some work for you. Go there and convince the delegates that you are a suitable candidate to be elected. So as the party that I represent, I can't speak too much for them in this platform. I'll just say that we will guard against any abuse of state institutions for party political interests. Abantu bakhethwa ama-branch amandla asemasebe. Yeah, amandla asemasebe. Thank you, Honorable. Thank you, Deputy Speaker, and thank you, Honorable Malema, for the questions. Amandla Asemasebe.
The second supplementary question will be asked by the Honorable Jotetsi.
a ke simolole ka go leboga motlatsamusa kgotla wa rona wa kokoanopeo molao ya bosetšhaba. Deputy President, given the fact that those who are representing the ANC in government are expected to uphold the highest form of integrity, honesty, and the rest of the ANC value systems, what steps has the Deputy President taken to ensure that it clears its name from the cloud of perjury, as it would have been articulated earlier on? Thank you.
The Honorable Deputy President.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Thank you, Honorable Tsotetsi. When there were allegations against me in various newspapers of all sorts, I did appear before the Integrity Commission of the ANC to brief them about the truth. They didn't call me. I went to them and said, there are all these things in the newspapers. I want to brief you about the truth. And they gave me time. I think I spent 5 hours with them. But I was also contacted by the Integrity Commission of Parliament, and I replied to them about the truth. Now, those of you honorable members who might have heard about the case of perjury, which was dismissed by the Supreme Court of Appeal, it's a case that somebody was trying to open against me in Northwest, purporting to be a member of the ANC in some of the branches of the ANC. And this person, of course, was upset that when they tried to overthrow the Conference of the Northwest, they lost the case. I was the acting Secretary General at the time. So I had to depose an affidavit on behalf of the NEC. They lost the case. They then lost the case now recently in the Supreme Court of Appeal that was heard by 5 judges. So this case has been dismissed. These very same people then tried to go to the NPA and say, yeah, you know, the ANC won the case because they are acting SG light, and they were also dismissed by the NPA. So I'm sure if they want to pursue it, they will go somewhere else, I don't know where. But because there was no such a thing. You know, when you pursue something that is a lie, it doesn't get anywhere. There was no such a thing. I deposed an affidavit on behalf of the NEC, with correct facts, and the NEC won the case, and today they do have a provincial executive committee in the Northwest. So I would like to consider this matter closed, as it was closed by the Supreme Court of Appeal. But if somebody wants to pursue a case of perjury beyond the NPA, I'm sure they can do so. I don't know where they'll go, but there was no perjury at all. The NEC of the ANC did take a decision to defend that case when they wanted that provincial executive to be dissolved. And I was leading the charge at the time. Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker, that's the story. Thank you, Honorable Tsotetsi.
The third supplementary question will be asked by the Honorable Breitenbach.
Thank you, Honourable Deputy Speaker. Good afternoon, Honourable Deputy President. Would you agree that the only way to give effect to the constitutional requirement that the National Prosecuting Authority be allowed to perform its duties and functions without fear, favour or prejudice, specifically when it comes to decisions involving people who hold political power, would be to ensure through legislative amendments that the NPA is structurally independent, a constitutional amendment establishing a truly independent process to select and appoint the National Director of Public Prosecutions, and to remove the NPA from the budgetary control of the Department of Justice, and most importantly, establishing a truly independent anti-corruption entity. Would you agree, sir, that this is the only way in which we can ensure that the NPA does not feel and react to political pressure when it makes decisions involving politicians? Thank you.
The Honourable Deputy President.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy Speaker and Honorable Breitenbach. As far as I know, the NPA operates freely without fear of any prejudice. I haven't had complaint from them that they are under pressure from someone, because they have a space to operate and make their decisions away from the politicians. If they were to be influenced by the politicians, it will mean they are allowing it themselves, not the law. In terms of the law, they must make their decisions without fear or favor, independently, and operate as they've always done. So I'm not sure what they are scared of, but I haven't heard them saying, we need another institutions where we can be completely independent. They are independent from the executive. The cases that they decide on, they don't wait for the cabinet to say, can we prosecute so and so or so and so? No. They do it themselves. So I'm happy with the current situation. Should Parliament decide that something needs to be done to further strengthen them, that's a different story. But I'm happy that they've got space to do their work, to prosecute or not to prosecute without pressure from anyone, not even the President or the Deputy President. They are free to do their work. Thank you, Honorable Deputy Speaker. Thank you, Honorable Breitenbach.
The last supplementary question will be asked by the Honourable Nomvalo.
Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker. Deputy President, it goes without saying that you have used carefully chosen words to respond to the main question, because you are trying to protect the GNU reputation and your position at all costs. However, it is our firm conviction that the political interference in the NPA is the order of the day. This is as a consequence of the current incompetent incumbent in the NPA. Following the above said, do you agree with our firm belief that the current NDPP is easily influenced politically and lacks capacity to supervise prosecutorial work independently and expeditiously? If you do not, kindly give a supporting empirical information to your dissenting perspective.
The Honourable Deputy President.
Thank you. Thank you, Honourable Deputy Speaker. Thank you, Honourable Nomvalo. I'm not aware of your allegations about the current NDPP. Maybe if I get more evidence, it may assist me. I'm not aware that she behaves like that. There's no need to protect the GNU. All I'm saying is that state institutions must do their work and must do their work without fear or favor. When they do so, we will protect them. Whether there's a GNU or not, we will protect them because that's how the democracy must be strengthened. The institutions of state must operate within the law. They must not seek to place anybody. I'm sure, Honorable Nomvalo, you're relating to the fact that when I was under siege, some of the people who opened a case against me were from the DA. But I've left that to the institutions of the state. If somebody feels that the Deputy President not to be charged for this or that, you don't have to be in the GNU or outside the GNU. It must be just because as a citizen of this country, you feel you have a case against any individual. So this matter is not about the GNU. It's a matter that anybody can do. And we must leave it at that. So far, the institutions of state dealing with this matter are dealing with it, and they must be left to deal with these matters, decide on their own what to do. They must not be influenced by us, politicians. We as a GNU must focus on what we have been established for, is to serve the people of South Africa. That's what we must do. We must work together. We've got a statement of intent, and we must make sure that the priority is to grow the economy, create jobs, build a capable and ethical developmental state, and deal with the challenges people are facing, challenges of service delivery, of a high cost of living, and so on. That's what we must focus on, and that's where I'm focusing. Ezinye eziningi sizozibona. Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Deputy President. The last question has been asked by the Honourable Hadebe. The question is about urgent measures the Deputy President, as Chairperson of the Justice, Crime Prevention and Security Committee, has implemented to strengthen the prosecution and conviction rates of gender-based violence perpetrators, particularly in cases involving systemic failures in evidence gathering and witness protection in light of the ongoing GBV crisis and recent high-profile cases such as the acquittal of Pastor Timothy Omotoso and the rape of a 7-year-old girl in Matatiele. The Honourable Deputy President.
Thank you, Honourable Deputy Speaker. Honourable Khatebe, the question you are raising is important in that it calls for a national debate on finding lasting solution to the societal challenges of gender-based violence and femicide. Honourable Deputy Speaker, as a nation, we have been grappling with the scourge of GBVF for many years. According to Statistics South Africa, 1 in 3 women aged 16 and older have experienced physical violence, and 1 in 5 have experienced sexual abuse. This is a stark reality that requires our collective efforts to address. Furthermore, the study conducted by the Human Sciences Research Council, HSRC, whose part the report was handed over to the Department of Women, Youth, Persons with Disability on the 18th of November last year, reveals the following: that 33.1% of all women aged 18 years and older had experienced physical violence in their lifetime. we cannot allow this situation to continue. Hence, we condemn the case of a 7-year-old girl from Matatiele.
Honorable members on the platform, please mute yourself. Honorable Deputy President,
Thank you,
please
Deputy
proceed.
Speaker. I was saying we condemn the case of a 7-year-old girl from Matatiele and others who have suffered such inhumane abuses. We reiterate our call for our law enforcement agencies and all relevant stakeholders to work diligently to expedite justice, not only for her, but all other victims of GBVF. We are aware that there are challenges in the management of gender-based violence and femicide cases. In this regard, the National Prosecuting Authority has adopted a victim-centered approach when dealing with cases of GBVF. This includes the establishment of the Sexual Offences and Community Affairs Unit within the NPA to ensure optimal management of GBVF matters while focusing on best practices and training. This unit offers mandated training sessions on sexual offenses, child justice, domestic violence, maintenance, trafficking in persons, as well as GBVF module to all prosecutors. The Sexual Offences and Community Affairs also introduced the Tutuzela Care Center model that seeks to strengthen the existing responses, care, and support services as offered by the state and civil society. Through this model, the NPA has witnessed a considerable increase in the GBV conviction rate. However, much more still needs to be done. Over the past few weeks, we have regrettably witnessed the acquittal of Mr. Timothy Omotoso in a trial that lasted over 8 years. Among other shortfalls, this judgment has demonstrated a need for the government to strengthen existing mechanisms to deal with cases of gender-based violence, which include evidence gathering and witness protection. Thus, the Eastern Cape DPP is weighing an appeal and an external team to probe the prosecutor's actions. Madam Deputy Speaker, the Department of Women, Youth and Persons with Disabilities is also an important player in monitoring, coordinating, and lobbying for systematic accountability and change. To address these systemic failures, this department, in collaboration with others or other relevant stakeholders, is implementing a number of initiatives to track and monitor responses on gender-based violence and femicide cases. In conclusion, to this end, Deputy Speaker, I have already met with the Ministry of Women, Youth and Persons with Disabilities in my capacity as chair of the Cabinet Committee on Justice, Crime Prevention and Security, JCPS, with the aim to strengthening inter-ministerial accountability and response to address gender-based violence and femicide pandemic cases. With those few words, thank you very much, Deputy Speaker, and thank you to Honorable Hadebe for the question.
The first supplementary question will be asked by the Honorable Hadebe.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy Speaker. Honorable Deputy President, what specific capacity building support, including human resources, investigative training, technological tools, and budgetary allocations has been extended to the NPA and other relevant law enforcement or justice institutions to enhance their ability to secure successful prosecutions and convictions of gender-based violence perpetrators, particularly in light of the systemic failures identified in evidence collection and witness protection. Thank you.
The Honourable Deputy President.
Thank you very much, Honorable Deputy Speaker. Thank you, Honorable Khatib. The President has last year, if we all recall, signed the National Council of GBVF bill because this is a critical statutory body that will help them to be able to deal with these challenges. Also, amongst other things, the National Council on Gender-Based Violence and Femicide Act is in place to be able to assist us deal with issues of gender-based violence. I'm not sure of, if I would recall the amount that has been given for this work, but the last figure I had was an amount of 21 billion rand that has been allocated in the medium term MTF to capacitate this work. I would not be sure whether that is enough. We will look into that. But the Department of Women, Youth and Persons with Disabilities is working closely to ensure that, as Honorable Khatib was saying, is there evidence-based monitoring system? Yes, that has been put in place to track these cases and a lot of other initiatives that they are currently dealing with that I may not have all the information about them. The survivor-centric reforms are also being implemented. So there's a lot of work that is happening. We probably need to do more because gender-based violence is serious in our country. But as I said earlier, a week or two ago, I had a meeting also with the Minister of Women, Youth and People with Disabilities, and we were focusing on how we improve our work on this particular matter. Thank you very much, Honorable Deputy Speaker. Thank you, Honorable Khatib.
The second supplementary question will be asked by the Honourable Nalumangu.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Honourable Deputy President, what are the targeted strategies or reforms that are put in place to ensure that socioeconomic status does not influence the fairness and integrity of the justice system, especially when it comes to high-profile cases, in reference to the Omatosa case?
The Honourable Deputy President.
Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker. Thank you, Honorable Nalumango. A lot of the work that we do is coordinated by the JCPS, as I said earlier. There I work closely with all the security cluster ministers. Minister of Justice is there, Minister of Police, Minister of State Security, and we have tasked the Minister of Justice in particular to ensure that we give priority to these matters of gender-based violence and femicide. So we are taking this problem as a cluster. And when we meet, we also invite the Commissioner of Police and the various generals that are involved in that regard. So I'm confident that that approach is quite helpful to be able to deal decisively with this question, including, of course, as I said earlier, working with other stakeholders outside of government, like your Betterment for Tomorrow and other such stakeholders. When we deal with other stakeholders in SANAC, we also deal with this problem. So we are dealing with a number of programs. We link up with provinces, and also through the DDM approach, we also link up with local government on this matter of dealing with gender-based violence. So I'm quite happy that the coordination that we're doing through JCPS will yield results. Thank you, Honorable Nolumang. Thank you, Deputy Speaker.
The third supplementary question will be asked by the Honorable Khanyile.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy Speaker. Deputy President, what is your plan to ensure that rural victims of gender-based violence receive the same access to psychosocial services as victims of gender-based violence in urban areas, taking into cognizance that gender-based violence is highly underreported in rural districts? Thank you.
The Honorable Deputy President.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy Speaker. The rural areas are always our challenge in this regard because, Honorable Kanyile, some of the difficulties is the availability of institutions nearer where they are. That's the reality of the situation. Whereas in the townships, you have a lot of police stations and clinics nearby. Often in the rural areas, it's a bit of a challenge. But what we have done now through the DDM approach that the President has established, we are reaching out now into those areas as well. We do outreach programs now together with ministers. We go out to provinces, we meet with the premiers and the MECs, and we go and meet with executive mayors, councillors to reach out to those rural areas. It will take a bit of time for us to get it right there because in some of the areas people will say there's no police station nearby or there's no clinic nearby, and we need to address those challenges. But we will do so because now we are prioritizing rural areas. We're not going to neglect them. And I'm sure when we come back to Parliament next time you ask me a question, we will be able to tell you where else have we gone to those rural areas where there are similar problems. In some of the rural areas, there's a bit of progress because the institutions are there, but in others, they are not there and people have to travel long distances. I was in an area in the Northwest recently, and the people in the community told me that the nearest clinic is 100 kilometers away. So it's quite clear that we need to do something urgent in those areas. In one of the local areas there, they said we don't even have a police station nearby. So rural areas needs urgent attention, but I'm happy that our government presently is giving that attention to rural areas. I'm happy that we will crack that problem. Thank you very much, Honorable Kanyida. Thank you, Deputy Speaker.
The last supplementary question will be asked by the Honorable Maimane.
Thank you and good afternoon, Deputy President. Deputy President, yesterday, the Northwest Department of Education dismissed a teacher for having allegedly sexual relations with a learner. It then proceeded to online content. I've asked the Minister of Justice how many people are actually in fact on the National Sexual Offences Register. She tells me there are 32,000 and a potential 10,000 more to be included. I think, Deputy President, given the size of the scourge that we're facing on gender-based violence, you would agree with me that the register must be made public. But I want to ask you a more specific question. Do you not believe, for headmasters who are employing teachers, must gain access to that, vet the teachers, because as things stand at the moment, over 81% of the teachers in our system are not vetted against the sexual offences register. So every day a child goes to school here in this country, we don't know whether we are sending them to a perpetrator or not. Is it not time that we make it public, make it
Thank you,
accessible?
Honourable Maimane.
Teachers can know.
The Honourable Deputy President.
Thank you, thank you, Deputy Speaker. Thank you, Honorable Maimane. The Minister of Justice actually indicated to us recently this matter, that she is looking at this register with a view to making it public. So she's busy with that. I agree with you that, in fact, people who work in institutions like schools, who are principals and so on, should be vetted. Well, we do it in government. So I agree with you that we can talk to the Department of Education to ensure that you don't just employ someone, you don't know where they come from, and they take care of our children. I think it's something we will definitely look into. Because as I say, in government, when you apply, whether you want to be a chief director or a director, the first thing that happens is you get vetted by the institutions to say, are you a criminal or not, and so on. But I think we are a bit lax when it comes to schools. Now, with the problems that we're experiencing now, maybe something that we must immediately look into. So I'm open to discussing this matter further with you, Honorable Maimane. Thank you very much. And thank you very much, Honorable Deputy Speaker.
That concludes the questions to the Deputy President, and I thank the Honourable Deputy President. Honourable members, I now request you to stand and wait for the Chair and the Mace to leave the chamber. That concludes the business of the day, and the House is adjourned.